My name is Brooke, and I am going to tell you about the slowest betrayal I have ever experienced. The kind that does not arrive all at once, but builds so gradually, one small thing at a time, that by the time you understand what you are looking at, it has been happening for years. My best friend's name was Lauren. We met freshman year at the University of Georgia. We started a business together in 2017. We grew it into something real, a boutique event planning and design firm in Savannah, Georgia, that was billing close to $400,000 a year by 2020. For 3 years, Lauren was my business partner, my closest friend, and the person I would have called without question at 3 a.m. For 3 of those same years, she was also slowly, systematically dismantling what we had built, redirecting clients to a competing firm she had been building in secret, undermining vendor relationships, and funneling referral fees into a personal account I did not know existed. I found out on a Tuesday. I always find out on Tuesdays. I do not know what it is about Tuesdays. Lauren and I built Harrington & Co. events from my apartment dining room table in 2017 with $1,400 and a shared Google Drive. We were 28 years old and completely certain we were going to take the Savannah wedding and events market by storm, which in retrospect was exactly the right level of confidence for starting a business. By 2019, we had a proper office on Bull Street, 2 full-time employees, and a client list that included 3 of the top 10 wedding venues in the Savannah area. By 2020, despite a pandemic year scramble that required us to completely restructure our services for micro events and virtual coordination, we came out with our best revenue year yet. We were good, both of us. Together, we were genuinely good. Lauren handled vendor relationships and logistics. She had an extraordinary gift for managing the operational complexity of large events without ever seeming stressed. I handled client relationships and design. I was the one in the initial consultations, building the vision, creating the aesthetic direction that became our signature. We complemented each other perfectly. That is what I believed. That is what our clients said. That is what the business showed. What was happening underneath it, I would not understand until I hired a forensic accountant in the spring of 2021. Before we go further, I need to ask you something. Have you ever worked with someone, built something with someone, and had a gut feeling that something was slightly off? A feeling you kept dismissing because you loved the person and the feeling seemed too uncomfortable to trust? Drop it in the comments, because the hardest part of this story is not what Lauren did. It is how long I let myself not know it. And I think a lot of you understand that. In March of 2021, a longtime vendor of ours, a floral designer named Grace, who I had worked with for 4 years, called me and said she wanted to check in. Grace was not someone who called to check in. She was someone who sent invoices and showed up exactly on time and did extraordinary work. So when she called to check in, I listened. What Grace told me, haltingly, was that she had been approached by another event planning firm in Savannah over the past year and a half. They had offered her an exclusive referral arrangement, a percentage on any client she sent their way. She had declined because she valued our relationship, but she wanted me to know the firm had approached her by name with specific knowledge of our vendor relationships, our pricing structure, and the names of several clients she knew we shared. The firm's name was Coastal Celebrations. I had never heard of it. I went home that evening and I looked up Coastal Celebrations LLC in the Georgia Secretary of State database. The registered agent was Lauren Cole. I sat at my kitchen table and I did not move for a very long time. I thought about all the times Lauren had been handling a vendor call, all the afternoon appointments she described vaguely as client consultations, all the times she had discouraged us from pursuing certain markets or certain vendor relationships, decisions I had trusted because I trusted her. I opened our shared accounting software. I looked at it with fresh eyes. And then I called a forensic accountant. In my desk drawer, I have kept a copy of the original partnership agreement Lauren and I signed in 2017. Not because I am a particularly sentimental person about documents, but because Lauren and I signed it at my dining room table with a bottle of champagne, and we each took a copy, and Lauren said, "This is the beginning of something real, Brooke, I promise you." I have thought about that promise a lot. She promised me something real, and she delivered it, for a while. The business was real, our work was real. What was not real was the commitment the signature implied, the commitment to choose this every day, even when another option appeared. Lauren found another option somewhere around 2019. Instead of coming to me, instead of saying I want to do something on my own, or I think we need to restructure, or I have a different vision, she built it in secret for 2 years, while signing client contracts in both our names, while collecting a salary from a business she was simultaneously undermining. That original contract sat in my desk the whole time. She had signed it, with a champagne glass in her other hand, and then she spent 2 years making it mean nothing. I kept the contract. I took it to my attorney. It was part of the case. The forensic accountant's name was David Okafor, and he was thorough in a way that I found both deeply reassuring and quietly devastating. What David found over 6 weeks of analysis, Lauren had been redirecting referral fees from 3 of our vendor partners into a personal PayPal account rather than the business account. The total over 18 months was approximately $14,000, not enormous in isolation, but legally significant as documented misappropriation. Coastal Celebrations LLC had been incorporated in September of 2019. Lauren had been its sole operator for 2 full years while drawing a salary and partnership distributions from Harrington & Co. 6 of our client inquiries from 2020, leads that had come in through our main website, had never been added to our shared CRM. David found them in Lauren's personal email. 3 of them had become Coastal Celebrations clients. And the vendor relationships? Grace was not the only one who had been approached. David interviewed 5 of our regular vendors with their cooperation. 4 of them confirmed they had been contacted by Coastal Celebrations with detailed knowledge of our relationship with them, knowledge that could only have come from Lauren. My attorney, a woman named Sandra Briggs in Savannah, called the file unusually comprehensive in the way that attorneys compliment things without sounding impressed. Then she said, "Brooke, this is breach of fiduciary duty, unfair competition, and misappropriation of business assets. We can file by end of week." I said, "File it." On April 22, 2021, Sandra filed a civil suit in Chatham County Superior Court alleging breach of fiduciary duty, unfair competition, and misappropriation of business assets against Lauren. On the same day, I formally dissolved the business partnership under the terms of our original partnership agreement, which contained a clause Lauren had helped me draft it, specifying that either partner could trigger dissolution in the event of material breach. Lauren had helped write the clause that dissolved her. She learned about the filing from her attorney. I had changed the locks on the Bull Street office the morning we filed. Her key no longer worked. Her access to the shared business accounts had been revoked the night before by my accountant, who had signing authority on the accounts at my direction. She called me 16 times that day. I answered none of them. I answered the 17th call. I said, "Lauren, everything I have to say to you is in the filing. Talk to your attorney." And I hung up. That was the last conversation we had. Lauren's defense was that Coastal Celebrations had been a separate business she was entitled to develop independently, and that she had not violated any non-compete or exclusivity terms in our partnership agreement. This argument would have been more compelling if she had disclosed the business's existence at any point in 2 years, had not redirected our vendor referrals to it, had not used our proprietary client data to fuel it, or had not accepted partnership distributions from Harrington & Cole while actively competing against it. Sandra was very good at explaining this to the court. The mediation, required in Georgia before civil trial, happened in September of 2021. Lauren and I were in the same room for the first time since the filing. She looked at me once when I walked in. I looked back. That was the entirety of our personal interaction. In the mediation session, Lauren's attorney argued that the referral fee redirections were administrative errors. David O'Coffer was available by phone to discuss the 18 months of documented transactions with consistent routing to the same personal account. The administrative error argument was withdrawn. We reached a settlement in that room. Lauren agreed to pay back the $14,000 in redirected referral fees, plus an additional settlement amount I will not disclose, plus legal fees. Coastal Celebrations was required to cease operation under that name and release any client relationships that had originated as Harrington & Co. leads. Lauren sat across the table from me while her attorney read the settlement terms. She did not look at me once. I looked at the window. I thought about the champagne, about the dining room table, about the beginning of something real. Then I signed. First wave. The settlement. The referral fees returned. The legal fees covered. A financial accounting for what she took. Second wave. Coastal Celebrations ceased operation under that name. Lauren rebranded. She is operating under a different name now, smaller scale. The Savannah events market is not enormous. Our former vendors remember what happened. Professional reputation in a small market is a currency you spend very carefully. Lauren is spending hers carefully now. Third wave. 3 of the clients Lauren had taken to Coastal Celebrations came back to me when the settlement became public record. They called, unprompted. One of them said, "We should have trusted our first instinct. We went with you originally for a reason." That one I sat with for a while. Fourth wave. Grace, the floral designer who made the initial call that started everything, she and I have a formal preferred vendor agreement now. Signed, clear, documented. The kind of professional relationship that is built on transparency because both parties know what the alternative looks like. And the business. I renamed it. It is Harrington Events now. My name only, on the door, on the contract, on every invoice. My name only. I have 3 employees and a client list I built on my own, and I know every relationship in it because I am the one who made it. Last year, we billed $460,000. Best year we ever had. People ask me what I learned, and I have a real answer, not a platitude, an actual lesson from someone who lived it. The lesson is about disclosure. When you build something with someone, the greatest act of respect you can offer them is honesty about what you want. Lauren had options. She could have come to me in 2019 and said, "Brooke, I want to try something on my own. Can we talk about how to structure an exit?" That would have been hard. That conversation would have been painful for both of us. But we would have made it through because we had built something real, and real things can survive honest conversations. What they cannot survive is the alternative. I am not angry at Lauren anymore. I was for a long time. Now I am just clear. Clear about what partnership means and what it requires and what I will accept from the people I build things with. The champagne bottle from that first day, I kept it too. It is on a shelf in my office, empty. I keep it because it reminds me of what I am capable of when I believe in something. The believing was right. The person I was believing in was wrong. Those are two different things. Subscribe to Karma Delivered. New story every week. Every single one ends with the right person standing. I'll see you next time. Stay solid.